Have you heard about Leonardo Ciancilli, the famous Italian human eater who uses human flesh and blood to bake soap and cakes? You haven't, right? Sit back and relax. Let me introduce her to you. The Carnibal mom became Italian's ever first female serial killer after making 3 desperate attempts to protect her son, who was enlisted into fighting the Second World War in 1939. Leonardo Ciancilli was conceived and born out of rape into a poor Italian family by a lady called Amelia. To further make things worse, Amelia was forced to marry her assaulter. It was so because in those days it was considered a taboo for a woman to have a child out of wedlock. Her family didn't want her to bring shame upon them, thus she was forced to marry her assaulter. Amelia finally gave birth to her daughter, but she hated her with burning passion as her presence reminds her of the ugly events. To further foster her hatred for her, she planned to marry her off to a very wealthy man as a guise to eradicate poverty from her entire family. Being born and raised under such circumstances, life was different from that of every other young girl. She received no parental love and care from her mom. Misery, pain was the order of the day for her. She never had the luxury of being loved and pampered, showered with care, gifts, birthday presents, and all sorts, like every other young girl. Rather, hate and spice was all she continuously received from her mom. It got to a stage where Ciancilli could not take it anymore. She decided to take her own life as a means to embrace peace. But as luck may have it, the young girl who has lived all her life longing to be loved, longing to be shown parental love and care, to be embraced and treated like every other normal girl growing up, like every other person in the society, finally found true love, happiness, and peace in the arms of a poor clerk called Raffaello Pansardi. She met the man of her dreams, and the two lovebirds decided to get married. But unfortunately for the pair, this didn't sit well with the already embittered mother, Amelia. She had planned to marry off her daughter to a wealthy man as a means to eradicate poverty from her family. Seeing her daughter falling in love with a poor person is a hindrance to that dream come true of hers. Ciancilli marrying Raffaello didn't sit well with the already embittered mom. She felt betrayed by her own daughter. Outraged, the embittered mom cursed the newly wedded pair. History holds it that soothsaying, witchcraft, and cursing was a very common practice among Italians in those days. Reasons why Ciancilli experienced the curse from her mother. And that's why from time to time, just like every other Italian, she will visit soothsayers to know what the future holds for her. And it is said that on one of those her regular visits, she was told by a soothsayer
that she will one day get married and will have children, but will eventually lose all her children at their early stages in life. It is said that another soothsayer had also told Siansili that in her right hand she sees prison and in her left hand she sees criminal asylum. Now, this is where things begins to get very, very, very interesting. Just as she was earlier warned by a soothsayer that she would lose all of her children at the early stages in life after getting married, it came to pass that she got married, got pregnant 17 times, loses 3 of the pregnancies through miscarriages, 10 children died immediately after birth, and 4 survived. This woman lived all through her life, vowing to do everything humanly possible to protect the 4 remaining children from dying.
Unfortunately, it happened that in 1939, Leonardo's first son Giuseppe, whom she truly really loved among all of the 4, was chosen to fight alongside the Italian Royal Army during the outbreak of the Second World War. This news literally came as a heartbreak to her. It shattered her heart into pieces, and she was not ready to let go of her son. She wasn't ready to sit and watch her son die. She did everything humanly possible within her reach to stop this nightmare from happening. She knew her son Giuseppe would not return from the war based on the story she was told by the soothsayer. Leonardo Ciancilli, being used to losing her children as was warned by the soothsayer, decided that she was going to do anything and everything possible to stop her son Giuseppe from dying. She did everything within her reach, but failed to convince the Italian army to remove her son's name from the list. And that was when the very protective mom decided to take things into her own very hands. Determined to rescue her son from dying, the already broken, shattered-hearted mom decided that human sacrifice was the only means to rescue her son from dying. And 3 middle-aged women were her victims. Ciancilli, who had already decided to take matters into her own hands, she caught her prey through elaborate love letters and job advertisements before finally burning their skin into soaps and treats. Her very first victim was Faustina, a long-life spinster who sought her help in finding a husband. Leonardo consoled her and told her she could do it for her, but warned her to keep it a secret from everybody, not even her own family member. Leonardo further instructed her victim to write letters and postcards that were to be posted to her family upon her arrival, explaining that she has arrived Poland and everything was going fine and just good as planned. But guess what? This never happened because her victim never traveled. She killed her victim during her last visit before her departure when she came to bid her goodbye. During this visit, Ciancilli spiked her victim's drink, rendering her unconscious, and went ahead to kill her with an axe. She later on dragged the body into a nearby closet where she further
dismembered the body into 9 pieces and drained blood into a bucket.
According to Siansili, in order for her to get rid of her victim's remains, she put the chopped pieces of her victim's body into a bucket where she also added 7 kilos of caustic soda that was bought to produce soap. She now then stirred the mixture until the pieces dissolved into a dark mush. She went ahead and emptied this mixture into a nearby septic tank unnoticed. As for the blood in the basin, this is where things got very interesting. She waited until the blood had coagulated, put it in the oven, and dried it very well. She further went ahead and grind it into a very fine powder. As a professional baker she is, she knew what to do. She added milk, chocolate, eggs, flour, baking powder, and kneaded it into a very fine dough. According to her, she made very sweet, wonderful, crunchy tea cakes out of the dough. And she later on shared it with the women who came visiting her shop, and that she and her son Giuseppe also ate from them. Yeah, you heard me well. Francisca Sylvia is the name of her second victim, but this time around it was a secondary school teacher in search of a job. Leonardo lied to her that she has found her a girls' school where she could teach and earn good salary in an Italian province. Things work out so well as planned by the mom. Just like in the case of Faustina, Francisca came visiting one more last time just before her departure. And during her visit, she went ahead and spiked her drink just before killing her, as in the case of Faustina. Francisca's body was treated in a similar way just like that of Faustina, her very first victim. Leonardo's last and final victim is a soprano. A soprano is a type of classical female singing voice with the highest vocal range ever. She had come to her in search of a job. This time around, Siansili claimed to have found job for her victim as a secretary to a mysterious manager of an opera, or we can say a concert company. Unlike the other two victims whose bodies were used to produce crunchy tea cakes, she used Virginia's body to produce soap. According to detailed explanation from Leonardo, her third victim's flesh was white and fat, and that after melting it, she added cologne and cooked the body for quite a long time, to a point where she finally made the most acceptable white creamy soap out of her flesh. She later on shared the soap with her neighbors. She recalled how sweet the woman was and how bitter and tasteful were the crunchy cakes she made out of her body, unlike that of her other victims. How her crime was brought to light is a very interesting thing we're going to find out. It so happened that Albertina, Virginia's sister-in-law, last saw her when she was entering Siansuli's house. She later on grows suspicion after days has passed by without she hearing nor seeing her sister-in-law. Her growing fear and suspicion surrounding the sudden disappearance of her sister-in-law made her to lay a complaint to the police superintendent. The superintendent, who immediately opened an investigation, soon arrested Leonardo. Leonardo, in the other hand,
immediately admitted to the crime. She even went ahead, giving detailed explanation to the police as to what she did with the bodies of her victims.
Leonardo was tried and found guilty of murder. She was sentenced 30 years in prison and 3 years in criminal asylum, where she died 24 years later. She died an unrepentant serial killer. She never regretted the act she committed. She was very proud of them and died a proud serial killer. Just like Leonardo was warned by the soothsayers, she actually went to prison twice in her life. And she died in a criminal asylum. So the question is, do you really believe in soothsaying? Is it for real or just fake? Ever since Leonardo's evil deeds were brought to the limelight, a lot of speculation have been going on, trying to figure out what made her to become the devil, the monster she ended up being. Some schools of thought holds it that it is the earlier warnings she got from the soothsayers that made her to go this sickening length so as to protect her children from dying. Another one says that it is the inhuman, unloved, poor parenting way that she was raised that shoved her into the demonic lifestyle. What are your thoughts? As for me, I think the both, a combination of the both, is the reason behind her evil deeds. Let's say she was raised with genuine love and care and becomes a good person as she grows up. It wouldn't have mattered whatsoever the soothsayers would have said, or I don't think the soothsayers would have had the opportunity to say such to her, pending the fact that she was raised up a good person. Going as far as believing what they told her is due to the fact that she was raised under poor circumstances. Thus, a combination of both shaped and formed her life. Is the passing down of hatred from parents to children the best way of getting a revenge? Is it the best way? After witnessing what happened to Cecilia and what she later on became, would you go extremes? Would you go such a mile to protect your children from dying? I mean, after losing 13 children through miscarriages and early death after birth, and 4 surviving children, will you go this extreme to protect your children? How far can a parent go, a desperate parent go to protect their children?
Sometimes
it doesn't really matter how painful or how aching it is to have them in our lives. What really matters is how we transform that hate or that pain that brought them into our life into pure, genuine love and care. Giving to that child what you didn't have can go a long way to show how much you have grown out of that pain.
I am a living testimony, but that is a story for another day.
Yes, I understand that raising a child that was brought into this world through an unwanted or painful circumstances is not the best. It can be very painful. But one thing you should have at the back of your mind is that all children are born innocent and are gifts from God. No matter the circumstances surrounding their birth, they shouldn't be subjected to any form of hate and discrimination. Genuine parental guidance, love, and care is what we should give to them. We shouldn't let our emotions of the past affect the upbringing of our children, because this will go a long way to shape and form their lives tomorrow into the society. What we give to our children is what they project or what will project in their life tomorrow. And that is how the evil circle continues in the society. So to break this chain of evil, we have to, as parents, our guardians, give to our children genuine love and care. Thank you.